This video is about 3 dreams that I had, and I wouldn't even say dreams, I would say more like visions. That's how real it was. But I'll just get right to the point. The first vision I had, it started off, I was somewhere where nothing existed. There was just pitch blackness, like pure melanin is what the universe was made of. And I was aware that I existed. It's just nothing existed around me. I was just pure consciousness. And then an image of a man floated my way. And he didn't really have a body, so to speak. He looked more like if I would have laid somebody on the floor and drew a line of chalk around their body. And instead of chalk, it's just a line of blue light is what I saw. So this image of a man surrounded in blue light, but with no body mass, pure darkness. He floats over to me, and he asked me, "What's up with the earth?" And I asked him, "Well, what do you mean, what's up with the earth?" And he says, "Well, wasn't all the land in one place at one time?" And I thought about it for a minute because I was taught that the continents, if you put them together, they fit like puzzle pieces. And so I told him, yeah, I heard something like that before. And in the next scene, we're somewhere in low orbit over the Earth, and it looked like it was just made, brand new. Nobody was even on it yet. And there was no sun and there was no moon, but the Earth was lit. Like it was broad daylight across the whole planet. I could see the blue ozone, but the Earth that I seen didn't look like the pictures that NASA and everybody shows us. The Earth that I saw was flat, but round on the edge, like flat like a pancake, round on the edge. And all the land was in the middle, and all the ocean water was around the land. And holding back the ocean water was this circle of mountains, these rigid mountains that encircled the entire planet. And there was nothing beyond those mountains, just pure nothingness. And it was almost like we were in a storybook because I could see a page turn, like we were one of those characters in a pop-up book or something. And a page turns, and the next scene, I'm somewhere, it looks like a college or a university, and it's nighttime. And I'm at a chalkboard writing something, and all my classmates go running out the door. And I chase them outside to see where everybody's going. And we look up, and there's this giant moon on the horizon. And I mean huge, man. I mean, this thing was taking up half the sky. Half the moon was above the horizon, and the other half was below the horizon. And everybody's freaking out. Why is the moon so big? Why is it so bright? Why is it so low? And I noticed to the left, up in the sky, the real moon was still there. And so now we're looking at 2 moons, one big fake one and one small real one. And so I say, no, that's not the moon. The moon's over there in the sky. So then everybody looked back at the fake moon, and we're all wondering, well, what the hell is this? And just then you see this giant shadow walking back and forth inside of the fake moon. But the shadow was so huge, it was like the fake moon only had room for one person, so to speak. But this shadow was huge, giant. I mean, like the size of a god or something. And I had got a glimpse of what was on the other side, inside the fake moon. And then when I could see what was inside the fake moon, there was all these buttons and gadgets and stuff, like a rocket ship almost. And the shadow was a man. And when I seen him, he had these tentacles hanging down like dreadlocks, but he had arms and legs. But his hair looked like the hair of a squid almost. It was weird. And then he hit this giant red button in the middle of all the other buttons. And when he did that, the stars started to fall. And that's when I realized that the fake moon was leaving. He was starting to take off. And so everybody was like, oh, good, he's leaving. But then as the stars kept falling, that's when I realized he wasn't leaving. He was taking the earth with him. And we went straight up into the highest part of the universe you can go to. And the stars, for some reason, they weren't hitting us. They were more like falling past the earth and behind the earth. They never actually hit the earth. And there was this one star in the middle, and we went into that light, bright white light. We went into the light, and the next thing I know, the scene changed from nighttime to daytime, and I was on top of a mountain overlooking a city below me, and it looked like Manhattan. And at that, I could see every bridge, every street, and down by where Wall Street would be, there was a giant bridge with a big red light on top of it. And I work in that area, and I know there's no bridges that big on Wall Street with a giant red light. And when that light started flashing, all the cop cars, they lights started flashing. And then all the ambulance, they lights started flashing. And that's when I knew. I said, oh, something's about to happen. Something bad is about to happen. And next thing I know, the page turns again. And now I'm back at the school, but it's nighttime and there's no stars. It's like all the stars just went away. I don't know what happened to them. It was just a dark, pitch black sky. And then I'm looking up and I can see these orbs. These orbs looking like they were round and flat like a hockey puck, but they were glowing all these different kind of colors. And I counted them, and I counted 6 orbs. But I knew these weren't just lights; these were entities. These orbs were alive. Somehow I just knew it, and they floated above us like where the clouds would be, but there were no clouds. It was a clear sky, and the spirit from the beginning of this vision, he comes over to me and he asks me, how many stars do I see? And I tell him I see 6. And he tells me, no, you're wrong. There's 7. And I look at him and I say, no, you're wrong. There's 6. And so we count them again. And come to find out, we count 6 stars. And then he points to the left behind the skyscraper and he says, well, what about the one over there? And then when he does that, I say, oh, wow, it is 7 stars. And the 7th one was on the way to catch up with the other 6. And they weren't doing anything. They were just floating. But it looked like they were waiting on that last star before they started to do whatever it was they were going to do. And again, the spirit, he had no face. So try to keep this in mind. He just had a line of light around his body. But somehow I can make out facial expressions, even though he didn't have a face. And so after he made sure that I knew that there were 7 stars, I'm thinking to myself, 7 stars, 7 seals, 6 seals, 6 stars. And I'm thinking like, wow, this sounds like the book of Revelations almost, right? And then the page flips again. And now I'm in Manhattan and it's daytime and I'm on the streets. And this part is blowing my mind because I see dead people walking around with the living like they never even died. And they weren't looking like zombies or anything. They just looked like they were still alive. People that I knew, seen every day. Regular clothes, just walking around like they really had nowhere to go. And I see my dead mother standing on the corner. And so I walk over to her and I'm like, Mom, what are you doing here? And she didn't look at me. She just said nothing much. And I started to ask her more questions, like, shouldn't you be in heaven or something? Like, what's going on? And then the spirit, he came over to me and grabbed my left arm and pulled me away from her so that I couldn't speak to her. And I started to get a little upset because I wanted to talk to my mom, but he wouldn't let me. And he simply said, look up, as if to say, don't be distracted. So I looked up and I could see this white hot ball streaking across the sky. Looked like a comet. And when the comet shot over our heads, we all watched it as far as we could to see where it would land. And it went down behind the skyscrapers. And all I'm thinking to myself is, I hope this thing don't hit the water. Because when you got a giant meteor hitting cold water, the heat transfer will boil the water instantly. And you're going to have hot steam raining down on your heads. And so we watched as far as we could, and then we lost sight of it when it went behind the skyscraper. And then this loud boom, like this side of the planet, no matter where you were, you heard it. It was that loud. and this giant mushroom cloud went up. And I'm like, dang, I seen this in the movies all the time. Like, you see the mushroom cloud, and then you know the shockwave is coming. So I braced for the shockwave, but it never came. And so I opened my eyes and I said, how do you got a mushroom cloud with no shockwave? And so as I'm thinking this, I look up the street, and it's like the whole Atlantic Ocean is coming up the street. But this huge wall, man. I mean, the wave was so big. I mean, this thing was bigger than the skyscrapers, and it's bringing trucks and street lamps and bodies and bricks and everything else with it, man. And I'm just like, oh, excuse my language, but you know. So when the wave came in, something crazy happened. It only washed away the dead people. It didn't touch anybody else. And so when it washed away all the dead people, that's when all the living start freaking out. And everybody's like, I don't want to die. Everybody's scrambling, trying to run and get the hell out the way. And then this lady, this woman, she's panicking, screaming, I don't want to die. And so I grabbed her hand and I said, come on, this block is dry. So we ran to the next street. And as soon as we stopped running, the second wave came in from another direction. And this wave, just as big as the last one, washed away all the living. And at this point, I'm literally the last man standing with nobody else in sight. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? And as soon as I think this to myself, here comes the third wave. And the third wave is coming for me now. And at first, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit, I'm not even going to say a little bit, I was a lot of bit scared. And then after about maybe not even a second, all the fear that I had just left me, because I convinced myself, well, if you can't stop it, you might as well just embrace it, right? So I got into a position to where I can brace myself for the hit. And when the water finally hit me, the wave didn't hit me, it kind of scooped me up. And I'm literally surfing on the wave like my butt was a surfboard or something, and it's carrying me away. And the wave carried me from that dimension to this dimension. And when I got to this dimension, I was in spirit form, invisible, no body or anything, but I was in the back of my building, and I could see everybody's windows, everybody's fire escapes. And I fly through the bars on the fire escape. I fly through my window, through my headboard, and I see myself laying in the bed. And I flew into the top part of my head, my crown chakra, whatever you want to call it. And I flew straight inside, and I sat up. And that's when I knew that this was real, because I didn't wake up. I sat up. All right? There's a difference. And that's when I knew. I said, this really happened. And I had two more dreams like this. And the thing is, each dream came 7 days apart. And so I know that number 7 is significant. It's supposed to represent the divine, or the Most High, or the Creator. And like I said, I had 2 more dreams, but I'll put those other 2 dreams in part 2 in a part 3 video. I don't want to overwhelm you guys with one long YouTube video, so I'll get right back to you with the second part of the dream.